Busboys and Poets. It's a pleasure to have all of you here at these very, very difficult times. My name is Andy Shalal. I'm the owner of Busboys and Poets, and it's been an honor to really do these events on a regular basis. We've been having at least a couple of events a week, every single week since October the 7th, to have these conversations. We believe that these conversations are really, really important, and more important now than ever, to be able to bring people together for that collective hug that I think we all are in need of. And it's, for me, this is my form of therapy. This is how I get through every day. It's very traumatic to be able to scroll on your phones, which I'm sure all of you are, to see the horrific images before us every single day. And every single day, just when we think we've seen the worst, it gets even worser. So that's not even a word, but it's important to say it. So it's, this place is named after Langston Hughes, the great poet Langston Hughes of the Harlem Renaissance, who believed in a better world, who believed in racial justice and social equity, who believed in things that are oftentimes most of us in this room want to see happen. He worked as a busboy at the Wardman Park Hotel here in Washington, D.C. And one night in 1924, a very famous poet by the name of Vachel Lindsay happened to walk in the hotel where the young Langston Hughes was working. He wrote some of his poetry, slipped it next to Vachel Lindsay's plate. Being a black man then, he couldn't be eating at that restaurant, but he was working there. So he found an opportunity and wrote the poetry and put it in front of Vachel Lindsay's plate. The next day on his way to work, he picked up the newspaper, and on it said that Vachel Lindsay had just discovered a busboy poet. And that's the namesake of Busboys and Poets. Again, you're sitting here, each one of our rooms has a name. It's named after someone that we love and respect immensely. This room is named after the great Angela Davis, who has been, of course, a tireless fighter for civil rights and human rights all over the world. She was here a while ago and she signed the wall. You'll see it as you go out on the wall back there. I want to thank our friend Billy here, who's going to be doing the sign language. He is, you can watch him and actually understand what he's saying, even if you don't speak sign language. So it's really beautiful to see how he does that. So Mosab Abu Toha was here last January? A year before that. In 2022, he was here and he did the launch of his book, Things You Might Find in My Ear. Things You Might Find Hidden in My Ear. Thank you, Lori. This is Lori, our bookstore director. She's giving me the instructions here. This was his book launch here. So it was really exciting to have him back now in very different times, unfortunately. But my understanding is this is his first public reading with his new book. So, how many of you have heard him on TV, on radio, on different shows? Yeah, he's been everywhere, but this is his first actual public reading. So we are honored to have him here for his book launch. And with him, I have a very good friend, Isra Chaker, who is a Syrian-American activist. She is a program director for Amnesty International USA. And I couldn't think of a better person to have this conversation with our author. And we're going to have this conversation for a while. Hopefully he'll read some from his book, and then we will open it up for a little bit of Q&A for you all. So again, thank you all for being here. Look forward for a wonderful conversation. And don't forget, this is being broadcasted on YouTube. So if you have friends anywhere who want to watch this, who couldn't be here, please tell them to go on our YouTube channel, Busboys and Poets on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Let's give it up for Busboys and Andy Shalal, everybody. When I think about the beauty of the DC community and how lucky and blessed we are that we have spaces like not just one Busboys, but multiple, where these conversations are a safe space, where we can have honest reflections on ourselves as human beings and on the humanity around us and on the challenges that we continue to endure. This is a very important conversation, and I'm very honored to be here with my friend Mosab, who obviously, as we know, needs no introduction. And what Andy shared is only part of his identity, but his full identity is being a Ghazawi, being a Palestinian from Gaza, having family in Gaza, and his narrative and his journey that he's going to share with us tonight. Him and I just reflected a little bit before this, and I have a lot to talk about, and I have a lot of questions for you, Mosab. But before we get started today, I think we wanted to start this whole evening off with a moment of silence for the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine that continue to endure a brutal genocide, a brutal occupation, an apartheid machine that seems to know no bounds and are constantly needing more blood and more civilians, that it claims the lives of people who were everything to those around them. When we think about the children, the mothers, the fathers, the grandparents, the cousins, the brothers, the sisters, the neighbors, the elderly, the scholars, the journalists, the authors, the activists, the list goes on and on and on. And each of those individuals was somebody in multiple people's everything. Each of them contributed to the world around them authentically and generously. And none of them deserve to have been killed in the brutal occupation that they've been enduring for not just, as we all know, the past year, for the 76 years. So I would like to take a moment of silence, of prayer, of reflection for the people of Gaza and Palestine. Thank you all so much for that. And with that, this evening is an evening of, I think, going to be a lot of sadness, a lot of frustration, and a lot of feelings that we're all going to be feeling. And the most important thing is for this space to remain safe, remain respectful, especially to Mosab and to those in this room that are very directly impacted by what continues to happen. So I ask everyone to just keep that in mind at the forefront, and also recognize that this evening is also an evening of resilience, and where we're going to uplift the stories of courage, of Palestinians, of allies, of accomplices, and what we've seen as one of the greatest challenges and tests for our humanity, but also some of the most beautiful hope and light to come from our humanity. And it's shown in a room just like this tonight. So today we're going to be sitting with all emotions, and we're going to be feeling them together as a community. And I hope that we can collectively grieve together tonight and collectively find inspiration, and not just Mosab, but in the Ghazawi narrative and the resilience and the journey, but also find hope and commit when we leave this room to do better and to continue to push and challenge ourselves to do everything to stop our government's complicity in what's happening. And I get emotional thinking about that and the work that I do, but I recognize that we all here because we care, and we will continue to care. And Palestine will be free in our lifetime. So with that, I want to go ahead and get started. I love the snap snaps, and feel free to snap snap, feel free to clap clap, whatever you all feel comfortable doing today. Mosab wanted to start off today with reading a little bit of his poetry, and I said, you know what, that is the best way to start the conversation. And so I'm going to pass it to him for him to read some of his book. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody. Let's make him feel the warmth of DC and our community.
Thank you so much, Isra. Thank you, Andy, for the wonderful place that you are offering to the poets and to the voices that are usually ignored. I'm thankful to everyone who came today to listen to some of the stories that I have in my heart that are happening again and again in my head and in front of my eyes. Some of the poems that you are going to hear today have been happening. I mean, a poem is not written. It is happening again and again because of the endless Israeli killing machine. Is this good? Yeah. Like this? Ah, okay, Natalie, thank you. So, Isra, as she mentioned, I'm from Gaza, but I'm originally from Jaffa, the Palestinian city that was occupied by Israel in 1948. And that's why I gave my daughter, who's 7 years old now, the name of the city of my grandparents, Jaffa. I don't want to maybe read while I'm sitting, because when I read poetry, I have to honor the people about whom I'm talking. So if there is any stand, or I can try to read. Thank you.
We need 3 men and a rugby player.
And there's a link there to stand also.
I can. Thank you so much. My dreams as a child. I still have dreams about a room filled with toys my mother always promised we would have if we were rich. I still have dreams about seeing the refugee camp from a window on a plane. I still have dreams about seeing the animals I learned about in 3rd grade: elephant, giraffe, and kangaroo and wolf. I still have dreams about running for miles and miles with no border blocking my feet, with no unexploded bombs scaring me off. I still have dreams about my favorite team playing soccer on the beach, me waiting for the ball to come my way and run away with it. I dream still about my grandfather, how much I want to pick oranges with him in Jaffa. But my grandfather died. Jaffa is occupied, and the oranges no longer grow in his weeping groves. So this poem, it has the date under it. It's called "My Son Throws a Blanket Over My Daughter." It was written after the May 2021 attacks. And that was the first war in my life. I'm 31, so in my life, as if I'm very old. So that was the first war in my life that I lived as a father. Because in 2009, I was wounded in an airstrike. I was still 16. 2014, I recently graduated from the university. And then I married in 2015, and then it was the war of May 2021. So I was a father of 3 children. And I wrote this poem about one of the experiences of being a father under the Israeli bombardment and occupation. My son throws a blanket over my daughter. Gaza, May 2021. At night, at home, we sit on the floor, close to each other, far from the windows and the red lights of the bombs. Our backs bang on the walls whenever the house shakes. We stare at each other's faces, scared yet happy that so far our lives have been spared. The walls wake up from their fitful sleep, no arms to wipe at their bleary eyes. Flies gather around the only lit ceiling lamp for warmth in the bitter night, cold except when missiles hit and burn up houses and roads and the trees. The neighborhood next to us, where Yazan learned to ride his bike, scorched. Every time we hear a bomb falling from an F-16 or an F-35, our lives panic. Our lives freeze somewhere in between, confused where to head next. A graveyard, a hospital, a nightmare. I keep my shivering hand on my wristwatch, ready to remove the battery if needed. My 4-year-old daughter, Yafa, wearing a pink dress given to her by a friend, hears a bomb explode. She gasps, covers her mouth with her dress's ruffles. Yazan, her 5.5-year-old brother, grabs a blanket warmed by his sleepy body. He lays the blanket on his sister. You can hide now, he assures her. Next one is No Art, and it's written after Elizabeth Bishop's One Art. No art. The art of losing isn't hard to master, Elizabeth Bishop. You know everything will come to an end. The sugar, the tea, the dried sage, the water. Just go to the market and restock. Even your shadow will abandon you when there is no light. So just keep things that require only you. The book of poems that only you can decipher. The blank map of a country whose cities and villages only you can recognize. I've personally lost 3 friends to war, a city to darkness, and a language to fear. This was not easy to survive, but survival proved necessary to master. But of all things, losing the only photo of my grandfather under the rubble of my house was a real disaster. Thank you. Next one is, this is a long poem. It's called Under the Rubble. And this was written during the ongoing genocide. Under the rubble. She slept on her bed, never woke up again. Her bed has become her grave, a tomb beneath the ceiling of her room, the ceiling a cenotaph. No name, no year of birth, no year of death, no epitaph. Only blood and a smashed picture frame in ruin next to her. In Jabalia camp, a mother collects her daughter's flesh in a piggy bank, hoping to buy her a plot on a river in a faraway land. A group of mute people were talking sign. When a bomb fell, they fell silent. It rained again last night. The new plant looked for an umbrella in the garage. The bombing got intense, and our house looked for a shelter in the neighborhood. I leave the door to my room open so the words in my books, the titles and the names of authors and publishers could flee when they hear the bombs. I became homeless once, but the rubble of my city covered the streets. They could not find a stretcher to carry your body. They put you on a wooden door they found under the rubble. Your neighborhood, your neighbors, a moving wall. The scars on our children's faces will look for you. Our children's amputated legs will run after you. He left the house to buy some bread for his kids. News of his death made it home, but not the bread. No bread. Death sits to eat whoever remains of the kids. No need for the table. No need for bread. A father wakes up at night, sees the random colors on the walls drawn by his 4-year-old daughter. The colors are about 4 feet high. Next year they would be 5. But the painter has died in an airstrike. There are no colors anymore. There are no walls. I changed the order of my books on the shelves. 2 days later, the war broke out. Beware of changing the order of your books. This is something really happened. I reordered the books on my shelf, and then it was October 7th. What are you thinking? What thinking? What you? You? Is there still you? You there? Where should people go? Should they build a big ladder and go up? But heaven has been blocked by the drones and F-16s and the smoke of death. This was posted on the New Yorker's Instagram page, and it got a lot of hatred from Ziods, but it got a lot of support. But anyway, my son, it got more support than most of the New Yorker's posts, by the way. So, because people say, oh, people in Gaza care about dogs. No, we don't care about dogs. We just care about our land. My son asks me whether when we return to Gaza, I could get him a puppy. I say, I promise, if we can find any. I ask my son if he wishes to become a pilot when he grows up. He says he won't wish to drop bombs on people and houses. When we die, our souls leave our bodies, take with them everything they loved in our bedrooms, the perfume bottles, the makeup, the necklaces, and the pens. In Gaza, our bodies and rooms get crushed. Nothing remains for the soul. Even our souls, they get stuck under the rubble for weeks. Next poem. And this is a poem that I wrote again and again, 2 years before October 7th. And I said it once and I said it again, that the instruction that I was giving to people in Gaza are no longer functionable during the ongoing genocide, because nothing in this poem works today. But I wrote this poem after the May 2021 attacks. What a Gazan should do during an Israeli airstrike: turn off the lights in every room, sit in the inner hallway of the house, away from the windows, stay away from the stove, stop thinking about making black tea, have a bottle of water nearby big enough to cool down children's fear, get a child's kindergarten backpack and stuff tiny toys and whatever amount of money there is, and the ID cards, and photos of late grandparents, aunts and uncles, and the grandparents' wedding invitation that's been kept for a long time. And if you are a farmer, you should put some strawberry seeds in one pocket and some soil from the balcony flower pot in the other, and hold on tight to whatever number there was on the cake from the last birthday. Okay. 2 more poems. Good? خلاص تمام. ليش ناخذ وقت كتير يعني. Okay, 2 more poems, unless people want a specific poem, which is silence. Okay, so there are 2 poems that I really hold tight to in my heart, because they carry a lot of meanings to me. One is called Right or Left, and this poem is about a girl that I know, and there are so many other girls who are still buried under the rubble of their house since last November. And I'm talking about, I forget her first name. She is the sister of a friend of mine who was killed in an airstrike. I showed you a photo of him, Ismail Abu Ghabin. I forget his sister's name. But she and her brother, my friend Ismail, and the father are still buried under the rubble since last November. So left, right or left? Under the rubble, her body has remained for days and days. When the war ends, we try to remove the rubble, stone after stone. We only find one small bone from her body. It is a bone from her arm. Right or left, it does not matter as long as we cannot find the henna from her neighbor's wedding on her skin, or the ink from a school pen on a little index finger. The moon. This is the last one, okay? And I'm not sure if some of you heard me give the context of this poem. But it's also about the people who were starving to death, to the extent that even animals were starving. And whenever a cat or a dog finds the body of someone in the street, they start to eat the bodies. So this poem is about a cat which was eating from the body of someone. And it's also about a girl and her father who were killed in the street and whose bodies remained in the street for weeks. And they were wearing their backpack trying to evacuate. But when there is occupation, when there is barbarism, there is no way to escape. The moon. She's lying on the asphalt, her small belly, her chest, her forehead, her hands, her cold feet bare in the night. A hungry cat paces, shrapnel rings as it hits neighboring houses already bombed. The hungry cat sees the girl, her wounds still warm. Hungrier, the girl's father lies next to her on his back, The backpack he wears still has the girl's favorite candy and a small toy. The girl was waiting till they arrived to eat her lollipop. The cat gets close to try the flesh. A bomb pounds the street. No flesh, no girl, no father, no cat. Nobody is hungry. The moon overhead is not the moon. Shukran. Thank you.
Thank you, Mosab, for sharing all that. I feel like we all need like a collective sigh, a deep breath. You know, before I jump into the book and the poetry, I want to start off with what you shared with me backstage. You shared a lot of things, but we started off by seeing the beauty that is Gaza. You were showing me images of a very beautiful, lush land with the greenery that was so green, it almost looked like it was a painting. You showed me the beaches with water that was so blue, it looked like it wasn't real. You showed me the strawberry farm that your father-in-law was managing and had, and the beautiful strawberries, and your sons holding the strawberries. You showed the biggest, most delicious looking watermelons that were growing in the fields. You have so many memories of Gaza that you've captured, because I know you like to take photos. And I'm so glad you like to take photos, because at a time like now, it's these photos that remind us of not just the humanity of the people of Gaza, but the land and the sacredness of this land. So describe to us Gaza pre-genocide, because we've always known it's been under siege. We've all known it's always been under occupation. But even in that, there was so much beauty before October 7th. Share a little bit more of your reflections on Gaza.
Sure. Thank you so much for the question and for telling people what you saw on my phone. Which is good, because I can't, show everyone.
I wish you could. I wish
Yeah,
we could
maybe.
show you some photos.
Yeah. So what people know about Gaza is that Gaza is under occupation, just as the rest of Palestine. But it doesn't mean that people are sitting idle and waiting for the rockets or waiting for the Israelis to bomb them or to tighten the siege more and more. We were doing our best to create hope, not necessarily for us, but for the generations that are coming. Sometimes, the Zionists, when they talk about Gaza, and when we show the beauty of Gaza, even when I shared a photo of my brother who is a bodybuilder, when I posted a photo of my brother with the muscles, someone said, "Oh, how do you claim there is siege and you have food for that body?" And when we show some cars, "Oh, how is there siege and you have cars?" But the thing about siege is not about people, having some beautiful things and good things. The siege and the occupation is about preventing people from creating more and more beauty. We have the beauty, we created it. But we could do more and more if there was no occupation. There are two parts in Gaza that I enjoyed going to. One was the beach, because that was the only window where you can look without seeing the Israelis, or what could remind you of the Israeli occupation, because Gaza is surrounded by 4 sides, 2 with Israel, 1 with Egypt, and 1 with the sea. And the sea itself is occupied by the Israelis. Many people maybe don't know that Israel controls the sea space. So even fishermen cannot sail as far as 7 nautical miles. So there is a big lie, and I have to deflect from the question for a bit, and I will answer you. But there is a big lie, and I hope that everyone will realize this, which is that Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005, which is a big, big lie, for one reason. Who is occupying the sky? Whose airplanes and warplanes are flying over Gaza? Who is sailing their ships in the Gaza Sea? And who is controlling the border with Gaza? Even the border with Egypt, by the way. Israel has a say who can get even Gazans. If you are on a blacklist, the Egyptians will not allow you out or allow you to in. So we are occupied from the sky, from the sea, and from the land. But there are two places, as I mentioned. So even though I love to go to the sea, but the sea also itself, and this is what it means to be a Gazan. You enjoy something, but at the same time, it reminds you of atrocities that were committed there. For example, on the beach, a massacre was committed against the Ghalia family in 2006. And I walked in the funeral. I was, how old I was? 2000, I was, I think, 14. I was 14. And I could still remember the smell of the perfume on the bodies of the people who were killed. Because, you know, when someone is killed, the smell of the charred body parts, you know, you have to hide it by spraying some perfume. So I could still smell the perfume on the bodies of the people who were killed when we were walking in the funeral to the cemetery. So there is the beach. It is the only thing that you can go to when there is no electricity in Gaza, because we have electricity cuts because of the Israeli occupation. Israel controls how many fuel trucks go into Gaza in order to operate the power plant. So there is that. So the only way that people can go to, the only place that people can go to is go to the beach, because they can't sit in the summer heat inside the house. The other place is the northern part of Beit Lahiya. So Beit Lahiya is a city on the northern part of Beit Lahiya, but to the very north, there are strawberry farms, corn fields. So that would be a place where I could go to, and especially with friends. And lately, before he was killed, Rifat Al-Arair, we used to go to and pick strawberries together. So, and there is something that always reminds you, even when you are enjoying the beauty of everything, there is something that always reminds you that you are under surveillance, you are under occupation. The drones. Sometimes I feel like the drones want to, you know, go back in some pages behind to read with me, because they were living with us. There is a book by Atif Abu Saif, The Drone Eats With Me. And I say the drone reads with me. I mean, when I open the book, I start hearing the drones. I mean, maybe they would like to read some books about how ugly they are. So this is Gaza. Gaza has a beautiful beach. Gaza has beautiful farms. I think in Gaza they used to export strawberries to Europe and even to the West Bank. Of course, Israel controls how many strawberries get into the West Bank, and sometimes into Israel, because the Israelis pay more for the strawberries. So there was some kind of trade, you know. What else?
Well, that was a beautiful answer on the description of Gaza, and obviously a reminder to all of us in the room, like what it is to live under occupation day to day. I think we all see what's on social media, we hear accounts of it, but firsthand stories beyond what you post online is really important, because what it reminds us is that you're under surveillance 24/7 every single day of your life. And I don't think any of us could live like that, especially with like the risk and fear of our life and our safety at any moment. So thank you for sharing that. Mosab, you were a teacher, you taught English, and you showed me your class in the photos, 7th and 8th grade, and you pointed out a boy named Hatim. And I want you to talk about Hatim because it resonated deeply, but I think that anybody can understand that you were there to serve a purpose for your community, not just being from Gaza and Palestine and enjoying English and writing and poetry, but you wanted to teach the next generation. You wanted to instill that in them. Share a little bit more about that with everybody.
So I started teaching English in 2017. I graduated from the Islamic University of Gaza, where Rifat used to teach before he was killed. And he even wanted me to join the English department just a few months before October 7th. So I taught English at UNRWA schools beginning February 2017. And I mainly taught in Beit Hanun, which is a city next to Beit Lahiya in North Gaza. And I don't want to say the best, but one of the best students that I ever encountered was Hatim al-Za'anin, who was not only the best student in English, but also in math and science. Every teacher thought that he was the best student. And, you know, in Gaza, I think that it's hard to deal with students with trauma when the teacher himself or herself are traumatized. One thing I could use from my experience traveling outside was to show my students, you know, the place, the cities and the mountains that I visited, the parks, the trees, the animals that I saw, the deer, for example, the squirrels. They have never seen deer or squirrel. This is why in my dream, you know, in my poem, I still have dreams. I've never seen, I mean, the only, let me say what kind of animals I used to see in Gaza. The dogs, the cats, the mice, the rats, the donkeys, the horses, the cows. Those are the only animals that I ever saw in Gaza. So when I went out and lived in Cambridge first and then Syracuse, and I started to see a deer walking. Oh, a deer walking in the street? What is it doing here? Is it doing an MFA like me? I mean, and then a squirrel, and sometimes it would just wait for me until I approach and then run away. I mean, my students have never seen animals like these. They are not even allowed. For example, I said in my poem that I wish I could see the animals that I learned about in my 5th or 4th grade. But even I couldn't even go to landscapes that I learned about in my school. For example, a mountain. I've never been to a mountain in Gaza. I've never been to a river, to a lake. Can you imagine this? I was 27 when I first left Gaza. 27, and I've never boarded a plane. I've never seen the refugee camp where I was born from the sky. Just like you, when you travel from Syracuse to DC, you get to see some streets or some monuments, some buildings, as the plane descends. I've never seen something like this. I've never seen my country from above. This is my right as a human being to see my country. I've never been to the West Bank. I've never been to the cities that were occupied by Israel. I've never been to Jerusalem. So, I mean, this is ugly, this is evil. When you keep learning about things and you never see them in the outside world. You just see the words, but you don't put your hands on these things. So I have a lot of friends who never traveled, who are older than me, friends who are 40 years or 50 years, who have never left Gaza. If they leave Gaza and want to travel from, let's say, from Egypt, because we don't have an airport or a seaport. So if they want to travel from Egypt to Turkey or to Qatar or to America, you will have one time I had to help a friend of mine who was 26 years old, who left Gaza a few months before October 7th. So I told him, Muhammad, just for your information, you have to learn this. On your boarding pass, you will see the number of the gate, the name, the terminal, which terminal, and the boarding time. So they didn't know what these terms were, what a boarding time means, or what the gate, the number of the gate is different from the name of the terminal. So you get to be 30 years old and you don't have that experience. And this is what occupation means. So you wanted me to talk about my students. I wanted my students to come to the library, which I founded in Gaza, in order to learn about the outside world through the books, through the stories. And I tried to set myself as an example. I told them, you see, I was reading and was learning, and then I traveled to America, and then I came back. So I was encouraging them to read and read and read in order to travel, not to be writers like me, but just to travel and to love the world and enjoy it. Because why do we have to live all our lives in a cage when the whole world is not allowing us to live, but sending more and more bombs on our heads? So my students deserved to learn from me, and I took a lot of videos and pictures, and one time when I show them, oh, see, look at the snow here. So for example, there is a word called snow. So I would show them, you see, this is the snow, and this is my son crawling on the snow. So then I look up, and then all the class is around me. Teacher, so show me this. Oh, can you go back a little bit? I didn't see that, So I was a teacher, and I knew what it meant to be a student who is living a miserable life. Especially, I'm talking about people who, I was born in 1992, And I survived about 5 Israeli assaults, 1 genocide. I mean, these students, Hatem, for example, he was 15 years old. It means that he was born in 2010. 2010 or 29. Sorry, 2009. I mean, what does this mean? So he was born in 2009, and then there was the Israeli assault between 2008, 2001, and then 2012, and then 2014, and then May 2021 attacks, and then August 2022, and then the current genocide. So this is a child who had to live all of this and then be killed. And do you know how he was killed? He was looking for firewood to help his family make fire to cook. Another student, you know how he was killed? And this is something maybe not a lot, it's not on the media. But when the Israeli soldiers invade a place, they leave behind some canned food. They leave, you know, they eat, for example, banana, canned banana, or whatever they are eating. So they leave behind them some stuff. And then some people, because they don't find food, they would go to the places where the soldiers were, inside houses or in open areas. They go there to look for food, and then the Israelis shoot at them. They kill them. So they trap them there. This is how another student of mine was killed. And 2 students in the past week. And I don't know, by the way, I don't know how many other students were killed, because the news of Hatem's death was posted on social media. This is how I learned, but I don't know the fate of my other students. I don't know who is alive, who is dead, whether they need my help, and if I could help them as a teacher. I mean, I wish I knew Hatem was in a terrible situation like this. I would have sent him money, or I would have sent my brother to give him anything. But I did not know that he was risking his life and looking for firewood while the Israeli soldiers were waiting to kill him.
And you described him as an angel, because you said it wasn't just his academic studies, it was his personality, his character.
I have a video of him. So Hatem participated in a short story contest, and I have a video of him reciting the short story that he picked for the contest. And I want you just to listen to hear his voice. I mean, he has an angelic voice. This is the first time I share it maybe with people. I have to look for it first. Okay, let me see the videos. Unfortunately, I have so many videos. Oh, this is it.
People have been coming to the wise man, complaining about the same problems every time. One day he told them a joke and everyone laughed. After 2 minutes, he told them the same joke and only a few of them smiled. When he told the same joke for the 3rd time, no one laughed anymore. The wise man smiled and said, "You can't laugh at the same joke over and over. So why you're always crying about the same problems?"
Yeah, so that was his very short story. See, I mean, you hear his voice, very kind. I mean, when I finished my, so we had 6 periods every day in the school. So he would wait for me, usually, at the door of the class where I'm having my last class, to walk with me down, because we had 3 floors. So he would wait for me at the door to go down with me and walk me outside before everyone went his way. When I was in Syracuse 2 years ago, I taught him at 7th grade, and then I went to America to continue my MFA. And I still have the messages between us. And he told me, he asked me to tell him about Syracuse, about my studies. You know, then I turned on the camera and I showed him the beauty, the trees, and the leaves turning into different colors. And I told him, if you continue like this, to be this good student, one day you will come here and I will help you.
Allah yarhamu, ويجعله من الشهداء, and that means may Hatem rest in peace and power. I want everyone to remember Hatem's name. remember his name, share his story. We just had the privilege of hearing his voice. And I know that that deeply impacted everyone in this room like it did myself. And I thank you, Mosab, for sharing his story and his name, and we're going to keep him in our prayers and our thoughts. I want to read an excerpt from your poem, Gaza Notebook, that you wrote between 2021 to 2023. This sat with me, it was very profound. At 5th grade, I visit the school library. On a wall by the door, a poster claims, "If you read books, you live more than one life." Now I'm 30, and whenever I look at faces around me, old or young, on each forehead I read, "If you live in Gaza, you die several times." What's the significance of this poem to you?
Well, it's just in the story of Hatem. I mean, he survived death many times. He survived the 2009 war when he was a baby, still in his diapers with his parents, because he lived in Beit Hanun, which is a city that always gets to be bombed by Israel. And then he survived 2014. I mean, because Hatem himself could have been killed in 2009. He could have been killed in 2014. I'm not sure how many airstrikes he survived. For example, I myself, I'm just one person. I survived death in 2009 when I was 16. I got 2 pieces of shrapnel in my body. One very close to my windpipe and one in my forehead, and you can see it if you stare. Don't stare now. I could have been killed in that airstrike if I just, tilted my head like this. Or if I just, moved a little bit to, to say hi to someone. I don't know. So I died that day, but it was only luck that saved me. And we were in our house, by the way. This is something that I did not talk about. In 2014, we were in our house when an airstrike hit one of the rooms. We were inside the house. My mother was baking a cake. And then we had to run out. And when we returned to the house, unfortunately, the cake had burnt. But anyway, it's not a problem. So that was another time that we could have been killed. And then in this ongoing genocide, we left our house on October 12th. The same day the Israelis dropped leaflets ordering the residents of Beit Lahia. So just imagine you are living in DC, and there is a war between the United States and X country, and they drop leaflets, all DC residents, leave DC. What do? They are not warning, a house or the whole city, leave. And I remember, I think Netanyahu, from day 1 or from day 2, asked people of Gaza, leave now. Leave now. Leave where? We are not welcome anywhere. And this is our land. You leave. If you feel, in danger, why did you come here in the first place? We did not come to Palestine from anywhere. We were here.
Yes. Amen.
Thank you. So on October 12th, I was in my house I was doing an interview with Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! And I finished the interview, and there's a video still online. And then I went downstairs to tell my parents, you saw I did a good interview with Amy Goodman. And I found them packing their bags. Wow. What are you doing? They said, we are leaving. What happened? They said the Israelis dropped some leaflets asking all Beit Lahia, maybe 100,000 people, leave. But that was the first time I found my parents packing their bags. Every time, Israel drops leaflets in 2014 or something, they say, no, we'll stay. But that day, I was surprised. My father was the first person to leave. And by the way, this is something very important. This is why in my poem, What a Gazan Should Do During an Israeli Airstrike, I said, get a child's kindergarten backpack. No, maybe some of you don't know that. Because we don't have airports, we don't have suitcases. So where do we stuff our things when we leave? In the backpacks of the children.
Wow.
If you look at the video, if you watch videos, you will see that most of them are carrying backpacks. Why? No, there are no textbooks here. There are no pencils. There is a bottle of water. There is a crumb of bread. There is the ID card, which I mentioned. Maybe a photograph of the grandfather and the grandmother. Anything that we cannot live without. So that was October 12th. That was 4 p.m. And then at 8 p.m., 4 hours after we left, there was an airstrike on a house. that was just 70 meters away from us in Jabalia refugee camp. There was a big bomb, and then, I mean, there was a lot of screaming.
I mean, I don't know if you want to play that, but I can
Just,
only imagine what we've seen. It was the 2,000-pound bomb that dropped and it took out a neighborhood.
That was November 31st.
Wow.
But this one was, I don't want to play the whole video, but just very quickly, it was, yeah, this one. It was a 10-minute long video. Where is it? Sorry. Okay, here, this one. It's on iCloud. It's loading. This is the sound of people. Okay, anyway, I mean, I don't want to play the whole video. But just imagine, I said we survived. Just imagine if I was outside, maybe looking for, maybe meeting a friend at 8 o'clock. Because the house was on fire and the cars in the street, including my brother-in-law's car, which he drove from Beit Lahiya to Jabalia, was on fire. Just imagine if you were walking in the street. So you in Gaza, you could have died 1,000,000 times just by walking next to a house, maybe staying in your bedroom when there was an airstrike next to you. So, and I also survived the airstrike that destroyed our house on October 28th. Because while we were staying in the refugee camp, an airstrike turned our 4-story building into a heap of rubble. And there was no warning, no phone call, nothing. My father, the next day, my father went to Beit Lahiya to feed the pigeons and the chickens and the ducks and the rabbits. And he, I mean, you know, when you look at your house, the house is there. And then my father started looking from up to down, and then it was a heap of rubble. What if, this is a question, what if I was, because in that house lived me, my wife and 3 kids, my father and mother and my sister, my brother Hamza, his wife, his pregnant wife, she was pregnant, and 3 children, my brother Muhammad with his wife, he has no children, my sister Saja and her 2-month-old daughter, my sister Sundus with her 3 children and husband, and my sister Ay, who is pregnant now, with her 3 children and husband. So about 25 members of my immediate family were in the house. What if we decided to return from the Jabalia refugee camp house to the Beit Lahiya house that night? I will not be sitting here. And when I was kidnapped by the army, by the way, the Israeli forces, terrorist forces, when I was released, of course, after the international pressure, one of the Israeli soldiers said, we are sorry about the mistake. We are sorry about the mistake, you are going home. What? I mean, you mean if I was killed with my whole family on October 28th, and then the international community would, you know, denounce this, and, you know, they would ask for me to come back again to life, and you would say, oh, come back to life, we are sorry about the mistake. I could have been killed with all my family. And this is what happened to so many people in Gaza. Innocent people. All people in Gaza are innocent. Because 70% of the population are refugees and their descendants. So not only are they bombed by the occupation, but they are bombed while they are refugees. So imagine you are expelling people from their houses in 1948, putting them in the Gaza Strip in the West Bank, and then continue to kill them and burn their farms and bomb their houses. So it's not only a war, it's a war against refugees, to whose problem there is, it seems like the world doesn't want to find a solution.
Yeah, I mean, That's all really important points you're bringing up, because you're talking about not just, again, the occupation and the root causes of all of this, because we know that if we want to stop what's happening in Gaza, the genocide that's unfolding now, or the previous assaults from ever happening again, it's not about a ceasefire. It's about an arms embargo, and it's about taking that further and ending the occupation and dismantling every inch of this apartheid machine that has brutalized the Palestinian people for far too long, right? And so I think you describing the moments after an airstrike, the moments of hearing neighbors and what that feels like, these are all things that we think we see and we understand because it's so visual on our phone 24/7. But obviously when you're there first person, recognizing like, I could have been in that building and completely gone with my entire lineage, which is why we say it's a genocide, is because entire families are being wiped out, right? 25 members, 30 members, 40 members. And we know that US weapons are being used to kill these families. And our tax money in this room is being used to fund them. So I think the frustration you're feeling, of course we can never relate and understand to, but we also have a responsibility for us to never give up and for us to keep putting pressure on our government to stop this and to stop fueling it, and then to stop gaslighting us as if they're not fueling it and want our votes for the election, right? So I think like, this is all a really, really important conversation, but it really brings me back to something you said earlier about the library you built. Because to me, this is the whole essence of who you are as a writer, as a poet, as an author, why you have multiple books, is you had a community library that you founded, but then you also had a personal library in your own home that was beautiful and renowned books you'd collect from everywhere. And then your brother Hamza also has a library that you showed me some pictures of. And so your whole family was rooted in knowledge and passing this knowledge to your community in Gaza that have never left the community and the country and the city of Gaza. But then beyond that, the future generations, and I'm sure your own children. Mosab has 3 children, very young kids, and I'm so, so grateful that your kids are alive and healthy and well, and may Allah always protect them and protect you and your family, because you're right, that circumstance couldn't have been the case. But the importance of being an author and sharing these stories and having these libraries that have all been destroyed, by the way. What is the significance and what do you want people to know in this room of why that was the path that you chose to take and you continue to take even as today with your storytelling?
So I believe that we never chose to be Palestinians. I mean, we were born just like all of you. I mean, I'm assuming that all of you are from America. But I mean, if you were born in America or in Iraq or in Syria or in I mean, you don't choose where you are born. But you choose how you see others who are not born in the same country as you. How you relate to others as human beings. So I was born in a refugee camp to parents who were born again in refugee camps, who were born to people who were expelled from Jaffa in 1948. And I always identify as a Palestinian whose family originally comes from Jaffa, but who was born in in Gaza in a refugee camp. But I see myself as part of this world, and in order for the other people in the world to understand me, I need to understand them. I never get the opportunity to leave Gaza until I was 27. But I could meet people online, and I could meet other cultures through books. So that's why, if we couldn't leave Gaza because of the Israeli occupation and the siege, we could bring the world to Gaza. Because when we say that Gaza is the world's largest open-air prison, which is, I think, a mild description. It's not a prison. I wish it were a prison. It is a hell. I mean, who bombs a prison? I don't know. Who starves the people inside the prison? A death camp, yeah. And by the way, I want to say this point before I go back to the other point. The ongoing genocide is not a genocide against the Palestinian people. It's also against you as human beings, because they are not assaulting us by killing us and depriving us of our rights, but they are also assaulting your feelings. You sit in a room, you sit in on your chair, and you feel helpless. You can't do anything. Why? Who give these people the power to kill and to send weapons? Who? It's part of you. I mean, partly it's because of you. You elect, you are living in a country who sends weapons every day. So you feel like you are helpless. And who is making you helpless? The people you vote for. So it is a genocide against you too. It's a genocide against your humanity, against your feelings. I mean, why do you have to see the children in Gaza being killed every single minute? Doesn't this affect you as a human being? Doesn't it traumatize you? So this is an assault against you. This is why you have to keep demanding not only a ceasefire, but justice for Palestine. It's not about ceasefire. Because stopping the fire doesn't mean that the fire is not going to erupt again. Because someone has the lighter. And they will keep lighting the fire again and again. Because someone provides more and more lighters. You see what I mean? So, what was your question? No, you were talking about books.
I feel like we're ready to go protest. You ready to go to the White House? I think we know where we need to go next, Mosab. But we were talking about just your path, your purpose as an author and storyteller.
Yeah. So why is it called the largest open air prison, or the death camp, the largest open air death camp? Because not only Palestinians are not able to leave. They are not only unable to leave because Israel is controlling the land crossing points and the sea and the sky. We don't have an airport. We don't have a seaport. But it's also a death camp and a prison because people like you can't get to visit us in Gaza. Who of you ever visited Gaza? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. So 3 out of about, I don't know, can you count it? So 3 people visited Gaza. And the rest of you, why haven't you been able to visit Gaza? Because you are not allowed to visit Gaza. You can't go to the West Bank. You can't go to Jaffa, Haifa, Nasser, cities that I can't go to. Although I'm Palestinian. I can't go to Jerusalem, but you can. You can travel from DC to Jaffa, or what they call Tel Aviv, or you can travel to Jerusalem, which is 5,000 miles away. While I, who lives about 70 miles away, can't go even to attend a visa interview at the American embassy. So it's a siege and a prison because neither you nor I can enter or leave. And by bringing books, and here I repeat myself, by bringing books, I was trying to break the siege on Gaza by getting things and gifts from people who can themselves come to Gaza and hand them to the people who want to read. So that was my way of confronting the siege. And I think that was one reason why the Israelis were preventing me from going to Jerusalem to attend the visa interview in 2019, 2020, 2021. So they were putting me on the list. I am a threat to the Israelis. And I know why. Yeah. You know. You are bringing books from people who love other people. So you are trying to humanize others by asking people to send you books. So if people send you books, then they see you as a human being, which is not what the Israelis want.
Right, the occupation forces want to dehumanize and want to murder as many people as possible and take over Gaza and Palestine. I want to open it up to the audience. I know that there are people who have questions for Mosab, but I think we have time for, Andy, tell me if I'm wrong, 2 or 3 questions. We will try to be brief, please, with your questions. And then we'll be able to answer them with Mosab. And then we have a book signing, of course, coming up. And Mosab, I mean, you're an incredible human being. If I could just say that to you, like, you're an incredible human being. And beyond the words that you share in this book, beyond the stories, beyond you being an incredible father, a protector of your community, your students, you're just an incredible human being. You are a gem and a gift to this world. And I just want to give him a round of applause for everything that you are, everything that you've given us. And I know we're going to sell out every book tonight, and everyone's going to go leave a review and share your book link, because just like you brought books to the people of Gaza, we're going to bring your book to the rest of the world, inshallah. Anyone who has a question, maybe we'll start at the front. Thanks. Well, Andy has the mic, so I'm sorry. He's just going to see who he sees. If you could just please say your name, that would be great.
Sure. My name is Daniela. I'm a journalist. I just wrote a story about social media in Gaza, and I've been following your social media posts quite a lot. I wondered over the last year how your relationship to social media has changed. And I heard a strange story that the State Department debated inviting Mortaza Zaiza to meet with them. Someone suggested it, they discussed it, I saw some internal communications, because they didn't really know who to talk to in Gaza who would speak for the Palestinians. I wondered if anyone had reached out to you.
So just to clarify, you mean that the State Department do not know with whom they should be talking from Gaza? Well, I mean...
Has anyone at the State Department reached out to you, Mosab?
No. They don't have my number. They don't know where I am. They put me on a list, on a watch list to be screened at every airport.
Of course.
On the TSA. So they knew, The FBI visited me maybe last month. So they visited me and they wondered, they wanted to know about my experience at the airports. I thought they were going to improve my experiences, but then it turned out that they were investigating, asking me questions about October 7th, my family in Gaza, whether I know anyone from the Palestinian community in Syracuse. Also, how do you keep in touch with your family? I mean, I thought they were going to improve my experience at the airport. And then they said, do you have any question? I told them, yes, can you help me with the TSA experience? And they said, different
agency.
Well, I'm asking you to help me. If you came here to help me, this is what I want your help with. And then they went away. But no one reached out to me, maybe because I'm a poet, and poets are dangerous.
Very powerful words.
I mean, there is something. I mean, I've been trying to go on CNN and BBC, and I was asking them. I mean, the last time I appeared on BBC was, I think, last March, and CNN, it was after I left Gaza. They asked, it was about my abduction, etc. But then I was wondering, I mean, why are they not asking people from Gaza or people who were in Gaza and left to update them? I mean, if there are no journalists in Gaza, because Israel is so so scared about the safety of journalists. And of course, who would harm the journalists, So if they don't have journalists in Gaza, why wouldn't they invite people from Gaza itself, or people who are in Gaza, who are in touch, or who have family in Gaza, talk about the situation? They can update you, they can show you videos. But that's not what has been happening. I reached out to someone from the BBC, and she said, okay, I will try. And then she said, oh, we have some spokesperson of the World Health Program about the vaccines in Gaza. Just that was last week. I mean, why do I need to hear what they say about the vaccines? I want to talk about real people, about my student who was killed. How my sister who is pregnant doesn't have any access to health care. How my sister and the other sister with 3 children, she is in a place where there is no phone signal, no Wi-Fi connection. I want to talk about my loss of communication with these people. The starvation in Gaza. My student looking for firewood because Israel blocked the entry of any fuel trucks into the northern part of Gaza since last October. It's been a year. So we want to talk about these people, but no one is interested in hearing these stories because this is the truth. But they want to talk about numbers because people will, when I tell you 15 people were killed, it's different when I tell you, my student, and you show his picture and let you hear his voice and what he wished to do when he grew. Stories are dangerous, and they threaten the narrative of the occupation and the oppressors and this administration. So no one reached out to me, and if they reach out to me, I mean, I don't understand. I don't think that this will affect them because there is nothing more powerful and more effective than seeing Sha'ban al-Dalu burning in the fire in the hospital. I mean, what do you want to tell me about, what do you want me to tell you about the situation when you see it every day? That's it.
Allah yarham Sha'ban, may he rest in peace and power. That's a very powerful answer. It's true. And I don't know if you would even take the meeting, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're complicit.
If I meet with them, I will reproach them.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you, Mosab. We have another question up
I
here.
will show them my Facebook posts from last October. I posted on, sorry to interrupt, in October last year, so a few days after October 7th, I posted, we don't have water, we don't have food, we don't have electricity, we don't have ambulances. I mean, a few ambulances would be usable because there is little fuel. So I was posting about these things since, not last month, not 2 months ago, a year. So I posted this. I mean, do you really care? Why don't you check the posts and our pleas? Just today I posted a plea that my aunt Asma and her 5 children and husband and the whole family of her husband are besieged by tanks in Jabalia. They can't leave the house, and the Israelis are firing shells on the bottom, the ground floors of the house. I posted that this morning. You can't see it. No one reached out to me, oh, we want to help your family. So, I mean, if you really want to hear, it's on social media. It's been there for a year. And even before this year, we wrote, I mean, this poetry book was published in 2022. And it has, most of the stories here are happening now again. So they are not reading, they are not doing their job because they are not human enough.
Mosab, my name is Indra Namithanag, I'm a poet. I wanted to ask you, who and what can remove Israel from Gaza and the West Bank? That's my question.
Can
Who
remove?
and what? Who and what can remove Israel from Gaza and the West Bank?
Okay. Why especially Gaza and the West Bank? Because occupation is not only about Gaza and the West Bank. So, you know, there was the partition plan in 1947, okay, where the UN recommended the partition of Palestine into 2 entities, one for the Jewish people who were a minority, and the Palestinian, the Arabs. They did not even call them Palestinian, they called the Arabs. You know, we don't have an identity except for being an Arab people. So if you want really to talk about justice and, you know, removing, they should be removed from whatever they occupied in 1948. Who and what? I mean, oh my God. I mean, they can't even force the Israelis to let food inside Gaza now. How can we think of removing them from Gaza, the West Bank, or the lands that they occupied in 1948? Who and what? I mean, I think the American administration, if they really stop sending more and more weapons to Israel, well, then the Israelis would say, oh, we lost our support, then we can't continue oppressing and occupying more and more lands. But when you have someone who is providing you with more and more lighters, not only are you able to use the lighter to set fire on everything around you, but also you understand that what you are doing is right. Because America is right. America is the biggest country, you know, they have the technology, they have the biggest universities. So America is the reason. It's not only Israel. I mean, if I give my child a knife and he uses it in the wrong way and kills a cat or a dog, this is wrong. But if I keep giving my child a knife, he is able to use it on many things, and he understands from his father that what he is doing is normal. So America, if they want to stop this, they could stop it. But they are even powerless in front of Israel, even to force them to let food trucks, you know, food trucks, not weapons. And one last point. I mean, the country that could ship weapons to Israel from thousands of miles away and is unable to make Israel let food and medicine in. What kind of country is this? And Kamala Harris, I think, give the Israelis, I'm not sure, maybe the State Department give the Israelis 30 days. Is it correct, Miss Journalist? Is this correct? Okay. So they gave them 30 days to, you know, to make it work for the food trucks to enter Gaza. 30 days, wow, that's good. Then all my family will be killed tomorrow. Why do we wait for 30 days? Why is it now? Because when they send a weapon, when they send shipments of weapons, They arrive the next day. Why does it take time to let people live?
Shame.
I think it's
It's a shame.
I think it's also important to understand that it's not necessarily Israel that's forcing the United States to do what it's doing. Israel is doing what the United States wants done.
Yep.
If it did not want that to happen,
Yep.
we would have an end to this. But Israel is doing America's work. In fact, Israel uses Jews and Zionists as a way to advance the agenda and making it dangerous, actually, for many people, not just Jews, but others that live in that region. So-
They say that what happened to the Jewish people is a genocide. I mean, this is the first time I say this. But I believe by creating Israel in the first place and bringing all the Jewish people, many of whom are wonderful human beings, but bringing them into Palestine and putting them into one place in the middle of Arab countries. And then Israel, oh, everyone hates us around. I mean, you came into this place which is surrounded by Arabs. I mean, the Arabs have been there for centuries. They did not come to the Arab world to harass you or kill you. I mean, by putting I think Israel itself as an idea is a genocidal idea. By putting all the Jews in Palestine, and then for them to start fighting with Arabs and for them to be killed, and then so why does it happen? I mean, if really the West and America especially care about the Jewish people, why don't you provide safety and security for them in Europe and in America? That's it. And instead of sending billions of dollars, and instead of sending billions and billions of dollars, why don't you provide safety for them here? What makes you powerful? Powerless. Did my grandfather from Jaffa went to go to Germany and kill anyone? I don't understand.
I'm going to try to switch the tone up a little bit. I was curious what got you into poetry, and before you were writing poetry about conflicts and the occupation, if there were other topics you wanted to write about and other passions that brought you to poetry.
Thank you so much. Poetry. I mean, I think poets become poets because they are in the middle of a beauty that is irresistible. So they write about it, they want to share it with the people around them. And poets also write about pain and injustices when they can't take it anymore. So they write about it, they reflect on it, because they want to share the pain with other people. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share my pain, because I can't take everything on my shoulder. So I'm writing about it so you know about it. So I see it in your eyes, and I feel like I'm not alone here. And because I want to preserve the stories of the people who are no longer with us. I want to share these stories. I am not only a poet who uses language, but I'm also, poetry for me is not only about language. It's about the stories in them. Because for me, just like other poets and novelists and essayists, other writers, they have the responsibility to tell the stories. What Rifat said, if I must die, you must live, to tell my story. And I think this is why we exist as poets, because there are stories that if they don't get to be told, then people will assume that they never happened. And if they never happened, it means that they will happen again and again. If people thought that it never happened, then it will happen again and again. So this is what my poetry is about. Poetry here for me is about beauty under the rubble. People, lives that are still under the rubble. Books and pages that are still under the rubble, that are struggling to get to the reader, to the beholder, to the human being who wishes to have met the people that I'm talking about in my book. So I started to answer your question quickly. I started writing in 2014. I was posting about whatever I was seeing on around me. I was posting about these things on social media, and people were following me, commenting and sharing. And then I thought that what I was writing was very important, because people were there and listening, just like you. And that's why it's very important to support every voice that is sharing not only their story, but the stories of people around them. You need to encourage storytellers. because they bear the responsibility of sharing not only their stories, but the stories of others who don't have their voice with them anymore, or who don't have the luxury of using language like I use it. I'm not sure if using the language is a luxury when it's full of shrapnel and bombs and drones and a bone that's left from the body, whether it's from the right arm or the left arm. So this is the kind of writing that I'm doing. It's bringing back to the eye things that are no longer visible.
Wow. Thank you, Mosab. One more. We're going to take one more question. I see multiple hands, but Andy's going to make the choice.
One more question. Okay, a young person there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Put it close to your mouth.
Did you ever have an eye-opening experience in your youth that opened your eyes to like the perspective of Palestine to the world, or how other countries perceived it, and how your experience lived on through that memory you had in your youth?
So the first sentence, I missed the first sentence.
Did you have a memory or experience in your youth that really opened your eyes to like the way your life in Palestine and in Gaza that really helped you experience and go through the rest of your life, and that really like changed you in a way through your youth?
Maybe not necessarily from my youth, but I think, by the way, not having met my grandfather, because he passed away before even my father got married. So having lost my grandfather, the experience of having a grandfather who could tell me about his youth in Jaffa, the places that he visited. I wrote about a piece about that in the New Yorker, I think last month. I mean, the loss of memory, the assault of memory. So my memory was assaulted. And I had to struggle to rebuild this memory and share it with other people. What drives me to go on and on would be a picture that I took of the strawberries, and it's in my first poetry book. I mean, Israel attacked Gaza in May for 11 days, and after the assault ended, we went to the strawberry farm, and I found that some strawberries were still growing. No one was watering them, and they survived the airstrikes because there were some shells that were not exploded next to them. So I saw that they continued to grow. And for me, as a human being, even though there are airstrikes, there are ruins around me, I have to keep going on. Not only because I love my life, but because others around me may need me. May need my voice, may need me as a father, a son, as a neighbor, as a teacher. So I felt like having the opportunity to travel and also to share the stories with my students, to inspire them, encouraged me to continue my work as a teacher and also as a founder of the library, because I was dividing my time between school and also going to the library to meet with the children, to get more and more children's books. So I was trying to bring to children, and this is very important, I was trying to bring to children, my children or other people's children, something that I lacked as a child. I don't remember entering a library when I was a child. So I missed that as a child. This is why my dreams, so the poem can continue. My dreams as a child, I forgot to mention something about books and libraries. So I missed that as a child. I did not live my childhood. So I was trying, as a grown-up, as a father, as a teacher, as whatever, to make available to others what I was missing. So that inspired me to, not to be creative, I don't want to say I'm creative, but to try and do something that I thought that people would wish to have as kids, or as young adults.
Beautifully
That's what
said.
drove me.
Beautifully said. So our program is coming to an end, unfortunately, because I feel like we could all listen to you talk for days. But Mosab, what are your final thoughts? Like, what last message would you want to leave with this room and those that are watching outside and on YouTube and the live stream? What would you like to leave us with?
The message. What is the message?
Of all the gems in the messages you've said tonight, I'm
No, no,
sure
no.
there's enough.
I can't tell people what to do because they know. And they are doing it. They are listening. Most important thing, I believe, is to listen to the voices of the people who lived the experience. And to listen not to stories about Gazans or Palestinians, to listen to Gazans and Palestinians. Listen to them. Don't listen to stories told about them. So I did my part as a poet, as a writer, as an artist. I did my part. I told you the story. I shared my work with you. Now it's your turn, either to share the stories that I told you, or what? No, to tell the stories that I shared with you, or to write about your stories, listening and watching my people being killed every day.
Thank you, Mosab, for your courage, for your words, for all the many messages you gave us tonight. Thank you to Busboys and Poets for hosting us as usual. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Billy. You guys give him a round of applause, everybody over here. And thank you all so much for having me in this conversation and creating such a beautiful space of community. This is what's going to continue to change the direction we need to go. And I know it feels helpless because you said it, but we are so powerful and we have a responsibility to keep using it. And we all know what's coming in T-minus 3 weeks. Let's make sure we vote with our conscience. Let's make sure we continue to advocate beyond this election. Beyond this election and beyond this next year and beyond this genocide, there's a responsibility for all of us to end the occupation and dismantle apartheid, no matter who is the target of it and who is being oppressed globally, including Palestinians, and free Palestine.
Thank you so much, and let's give a big hand to Isra as well for doing such a great job. We have a lot of events that are coming up, and Lori is going to instruct you how to line up for the book signing. But we have a lot of events, and we have the one.
Stay in your seats for now.
Thank you. She knows how to do this. We have an author that's here actually. We have Melanie McAllister right here. She's going to be doing Promises, Then the Storm. It's Notes on Memory, Protest, and the Israel-Gaza War. So please come. That's on November the 4th. We're going to be having it at right in the same location. So the author is here. It'll be another conversation on these types of topics. Also, we have some wonderful events coming up. We have Nicole Hannah-Jones coming up very soon at the end of this month. And then we have Mehdi Hassan is going to be here in November. I think you did an interview with him today, right? Yes, so Mehdi Hassan will be here. And we've got Francesca Albanese will also be here in conversation. Many of you know these people. So please keep in mind the Busboys and Poets website to follow some of the events we have.
We also have Palestinian poet Yafa in the house tonight. If you are around tomorrow and you don't have tickets to Mosab's lovely, lovely performance, please come out. What location are we at, Yafa? To here? We are here again tomorrow night. Please come and join us. And thank you all so. Yes, give me a second. All right. Can I get a free Palestine, please? All right. Thank you all so much. I'm going to ask that folks in the, actually, I'm going to ask folks in the front stay seated because the back, y'all don't got not a damn seat. So we're going to have the folks in the back come up here. And then please, slowly but surely, we will let folks get up. Please use some common sense as we do this. We don't want anyone to get trampled. That would be very unfortunate. I can see the headline for DC 6 tomorrow. So thank you all. If you need a copy, we still have copies for sale outside. Otherwise, peace and love, and thank you all so much from those of us here at Busboys and Poets.
sit by myself, talking to the moon.
Pull up the thing, gon' turn up. 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 Ooh, yeah, come for this ooh. Yeah, pull up for certain. Yeah, come set the mood. Yeah, you come like sunshine. Yeah, come meet the moon. Baby, gon' find so fine, so fine. Might give her the woo. Hey, ooh, yeah, come for this ooh. Yeah, pull up for certain. Yeah, come set the mood. Yeah, you come like sunshine. Yeah, come meet the moon. Baby, gon' find so fine, so fine. Might give her the woo. Pull up the thing, gon' turn up. 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 Pull up and make it clap. Bust it down on my jeans, young spare racks. Pull up and make it clap. Bust it down on my jeans, pull up in your flat. Pull up and make it clap. Bust it down on my jeans, young spare racks. Pull up and make it clap. Bust it down on my jeans, pull up in your flat. Wind up your right, boom boom, your pussy so tight, make the money change ways. Now I've been broke, no once, but twice, the spine, but I gotta get paid. Wind up your right, boom boom, your pussy so tight, make the money change ways. Now I've been broke, no once, but twice, the spine, but we so made. Pull up the thing, gon' turn up. Pull up the thing, gon' turn up. Pull up the thing, gon' turn up. Pull up the thing, gon' turn up.